This video is powered by, as always, entertainment. If you enjoyed this content, consider becoming a patron over on patreon.com/asalways for access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, The Kill Connor Clubhouse, early access to the Cinema Room podcast, being part of polls for future videos, and other early access material. With that said, please enjoy the video. Ooh, sorry boys, just got back from hunting some gamers, some noobs on the online. So thought I'd stop by and talk to you all about gaming. I thought this was funny. In hindsight, don't really know what I'm doing. Before we get started, I want to thank our Patreon producers, King Richard III, Josh Devillier, Ikraik, and Seth. Thank you all for your continued support. I really, really appreciate it. Link to support the Patreon is in the description if you want to join them. You can be a producer for $25 plus, or you can just be an As Always member for $1 plus and get access to some brilliant shit. It's not shit, it's brilliant, good stuff. Art. Anyway, on with the video. So last night, Sony did their first ever State of Play, which is essentially Sony's take on the Nintendo Direct formula. I know a lot of people don't think that's what they're doing, but of course that's what they're... What do you think? It's the same thing. Of course that's what they're doing. Now, why are they doing this? I mean, I get why. It's because I think, for one, they're trying to set up this event so that they no longer have to do E3, which is what Nintendo did a long time ago. And, you know, they've already said they're not going E3 this year. I think they're testing the waters with a few of these events, and then they're going to do it for E3, and then next year they'll be like, let's weigh up. Should we go back to E3, or should we keep doing this as a successful... and then decide what to do. I said last night on my stream, because I streamed the event, if you want to see my entire reaction, it's in the description. Wait, it's Iron Man!
A little late, don't you think?
Is it actually?
Friday, suit up!
Yay, it's Friday! It is Iron Man!
All systems online.
Is this a new thing?
What the fuck?
Around 10 o'clock.
So much for a hero's welcome.
Is this a VR game? Don't do this to me! Don't do this to me!
It is gonna be VR.
It is fucking... Don't do that! Why would you do that? Why would you bait me out like that?
I just don't want to play a VR game, to be quite honest.
I think that E3 is dying out, as much as I don't want it to, because I absolutely love E3. Talking of E3, I will be streaming E3 again this year, but I love E3. I think it's a great time of year. It brings everyone in the gaming community together to talk about video games and just be hyped. It is fucking brilliant. I have loved it. I've watched it every single year since I was about 14, and I just love it. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant event, and I don't want it to die. Unfortunately, though, in the modern age, it's a lot of effort that they don't really need to make, because everything that you want to announce can be done through a tweet, done through a live event streamed to YouTube, as Nintendo have proved. And so I don't think that it's necessarily something that's needed, but I'd still love it nonetheless. But I completely get why Sony have decided to go down the street and why they're trialing it, because it works for Nintendo, it's a lot less effort, and it works a lot better because you don't have to gather all these journalists in one room. You can just stream it online and the information gets out the same way. So I get it, but I don't necessarily want it. It's hot in here. I'm just going to take this off so that we can cool down a bit and talk about gaming. Anyway, so of course this event was their attempt at a Nintendo Direct. Now, Nintendo Direct is, if you've seen State of Play, it's the same thing. It's pretty much the same. I feel that Nintendo, just from the structure, I feel Nintendo handles it a little bit better. They show a lot more things, and they have like a presenter that stands there and feels very, you know, cheerful and passionate about these games, and they're talking about them. PlayStation didn't have that. They just had a voiceover of just generic woman they hired to do the voiceover, and so there's that difference as well that you get with Nintendo, you don't get with Sony. But the presentation overall works well. Like the format works well. We've seen it work with Nintendo. The only issue is that Sony didn't do it very well. And I wanted to talk about it because everyone seems to be in agreement for the most part. And that's after they re-uploaded the event to try and cancel out and reset the dislikes. So, let's try Sony. So a lot of people are saying, because this is their first one, their first episode of State of Play, it was never going to be this big event, this big thing. And It should have been, shouldn't it? This is their first ever state of play. They should have come out with a bang and been like, look, these events are going to be sick. We've got plenty of games to show, whether that be VR, indie games, these big titles that we've got, The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, Days Gone, whatever they have. It should have made a good first impression. It shouldn't have been, this is our first one, so this is going to be shit, but come for the next one. We promise in the future maybe we'll do a better one. Like, that's not good marketing, that's not good business. I understand where everyone's coming from. They're saying, well, you know, it makes sense that there'd be nothing around this time of the year, but then don't do one. Because if a Nintendo Direct happened tomorrow, and they showed, you know, it was just sort of average, it'd be like, well, okay. They've done better ones in the past. They know what they're doing, though. We'll show up to the next one, maybe they'll put something else. There's nothing really this time of the year. And so this doesn't, if that was the case, and if that's what PlayStation, they're like, there's nothing we can show. But they do, I mean, they do have things they can show, though. We know they have The Last of Us. We know they have Death Stranding. We know they have Ghost of Tsushima. They just didn't show any of it. And if they weren't willing to, they weren't ready to, which clearly they weren't, they shouldn't have done a live event, because everything they showed could have been a tweet, and it wouldn't have taken away from the things they were announcing, because they weren't huge things. I saw a lot of people comment, because last night, I was saying on the stream, when they opened with the VR Iron Man game, which was a huge fucking honey dick, because they were like, oh, look, it's Iron Man, but it's not what you want at all. And then they go on to Crash Team Racing. And I get it. Crash Bandicoot, huge franchise. Everyone loves it. Great stuff. People love Crash Team Racing. Brilliant. Cool. But it's not big. It's not a big thing to open with. And a lot of people were arguing the fact that, oh, Crash is a huge franchise. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's big. That's like, that's like Ubisoft already having announced a new Assassin's Creed. And then at the Ubisoft E3 press conference, they use it as if that's like their big thing. It's like, look, Assassin's Creed. It's like, yeah, but we already knew that game was coming out. We've already seen a trailer. This is your big thing. We've seen it. Well, just because it's a big franchise, that doesn't translate to, oh, then that makes up for it and it's a huge announcement, because it wasn't even an announcement, but that's not the point of this video. The whole event was just unnecessary, is what I think. I think if you're going to do these, because there's not a Nintendo Direct every day, every week, every month, there's just not. And so, if you're going to do one of these events, it has to be worth doing, not just for the sake of it. And this felt like a for the sake of it type thing, because there was nothing. There was nothing worth the event, which was obvious, and it was very, very strange, and that's why the response has been as it was, because Nintendo wouldn't do a Direct if it wasn't worth doing a Direct. And so PlayStation shouldn't have done a State of Play if it wasn't worth doing a State of Play. The first major thing is that the majority of what they showed were VR games. And listen, Sony, I get it. You have PlayStation VR. I get it. You've got to use it. You can't turn it into a Kinect where it just goes in the dumpster. We get it. You've invested in VR. But VR is not half as good as you or any of the journalists that are tugging your dick think that it is. It's not that good. Nobody watching that event that is sitting at home playing video games, the consumers that are buying your products, not the ones that get it for free because they're shills, the ones that are sitting at home buying your products, a huge percentage of them, I'd say probably, I'd wager probably 70 to 80% of them don't have VR and don't care about VR. I don't know who VR is marketed to. I get why they have to make VR games. I get why they're doing it, because eventually, at some point in the future, VR will be great, and they will have developed it enough. But who are they marketing these games to? That's what I don't understand. People that have VR already will buy VR games. People that don't have VR already will buy VR if they're interested. None of the games you're showing are game-changing, so much so that someone without VR like me would go, wow, I need to fork out £400 on VR. Because Iron Man VR isn't worth it. Five Nights at Freddy's VR isn't worth it. These are all things that are being marketed towards current VR owners, which isn't a huge percentage of the market, and are people that are going to buy VR games anyway, because they have VR, so why the fuck not? It didn't need an event where most of your audience don't have VR. Sony. The next thing we have is like some indie games. So there was like Concrete Genie was one of them, which to me, honestly, I get indie games. I get it. They're trying to do something different, and I appreciate that. But it looked very boring, and so did all of the games they showed. That were I think there was 2. Indie games that weren't, you know, VR. They looked very boring and were not again weren't worth an official PlayStation event to do. Unfortunately, if you think for whatever, like, because I feel like I'm just a classic lasers being negative, but I feel that if you feel that Concrete Genie needed an official event to be announced or shown, then I'd love for you to explain why you think that this event was necessary for the 6 VR games, or however many it was, the 2 indie games, a Days Gone, whatever that was, and a Mortal Kombat trailer. Why you think that this event was necessary for that, and why you think that this was, an acceptable thing for Sony to pull, because it was garbage. On top of that, Days Gone coming out. The Days Gone footage they showed was something I expected, but I didn't expect that to be the peak. I expected that to be, one of the things they flippantly showed sort of at the beginning, like, oh, isn't it good Days Gone footage? And then they'd have some big things to show, but they didn't, and so that made the Days Gone thing even worse. And also, on the topic of Days Gone, the more I see of it, the more I think it's not finished. It looks like it needs a lot more time, and that's worrying, to be honest with you. I'm very worried for Days Gone, but we'll have to wait and see what that's like when it comes out in about a month, literally a month from today. So we'll see, but that's not really the point of this video. And then obviously we got the Mortal Kombat 11 trailer, which was fine, but again, it could have been tweeted out. Like, it's not an announcement, it's not a big thing that it didn't necessarily need to be part of an event. And so everything, I think the major theme here is that it was very underwhelming and unnecessary. That's really the major issue. Where they went wrong with this, I believe, is they didn't have anything to show, right? So therefore, the event shouldn't have existed. That's, I think, the major thing, is they didn't have anything, therefore don't show anything. Done. We didn't need this event now. Wait until you're ready to show some bigger things and have some big announcements, then do one of these to make it your first impression of your show. Don't do it now when you have nothing to show, because it's going to backfire. And that's exactly what's happened. That's the major issue here with State of Play and what they've done with it. Because the format itself is not bad. It's tried and tested by Nintendo. And so we know it works and we know it can be great. It's the content of it that made it so very underwhelming and odd that they decided to do this now. Why would you make your first show a show where you have nothing to show and make only bad impressions? It was odd, and it honestly was just a waste of everyone's time. Sitting around waiting, then wasting 20 to 25 minutes watching it, it was a waste of my time. That's honestly it. Because if you'd have tweeted those things, they would have got to the audience that they were for. It wouldn't have wasted anyone's time. But they didn't, and they made this... Now, what could they have done? Now, personally, I believe that they, of course, they should. I feel like the way Nintendo does it is great. They have a bunch of mini things that they show which interest people here and there. Some things pique my interest. I'm like, oh, that's interesting to see. Even if it's not something I would necessarily buy, I'm like, that's cool. Okay, great. But then it's layered with, 2 or 3 big announcements. At the last Nintendo Direct, we saw the Tetris game, which was great. So along with that, we got Link's Awakening, the remake, which looked fantastic. There's Paper Mario 2, and all that stuff as well. Then they did a separate direct for the new Pokemon game, and that was great. There's plenty of great stuff in there that are, big announcements that you can really sort of sink your teeth into. And this didn't have that. But what I think they should have done is keep everything the same. If you want to show all these VR games because you have to, you want to show these indie games, you want to show some Days Gone, some Mortal Kombat, go for it. But open it with, I think they should have opened it right off the bat with a brand new The Last of Us 2 story trailer, and then give us the release date for that game, and then closed it with some brand new gameplay for Ghost of Tsushima. Keep everything else in the middle as it was. Show us the Days Gone, show us more Kombat, show us the indie games, show us those VR games, but close it and open it with big announcements. And, if there was anything else, maybe show a mini Death Stranding trailer in the middle as well. Maybe just do it like that. Have a big announcement at the beginning, have something in the middle, have something at the end. I think that's really how it should go. That's how Nintendo tends to do it. They go beginning, they open with something big, they show some mini things, another big thing, some more mini things, close with a big thing. And that's, I think, good. And I think that's the way the structure should go. If you don't have those big things, it makes the mini things pointless. Because you can't just do an event for the mini things that are there, the small little announcements and updates. You can't do an event for that. The event is really there to give you those big announcements, those big new trailers, those release dates, you know, those things. But then you also get it padded out with some little things here and there, and it just makes the event nice to watch, because you have those big things you're waiting for that next big announcement, whilst you're also getting these mini things like, oh, here's a new free game, or here's this indie game that's coming out, here's what we're doing with VR, here's some updates to, you know, some membership things. And then it makes everything nice. It's just a well done event, it's constructed well, it's structured nicely, and that makes it good to watch for the audience. And so I think that's really all they needed to do, was give us, even if it was just one big announcement, I think it would have made it worth it. If they'd have closed with The Last of Us Part 2, or Ghost of Tsushima, or Death Stranding, one of their big games that's yet to have a release date, if they'd have ended with one of those, probably could have saved the event. But I feel like in the future, you need 2 or 3 big things to pad out, or to really draw in the reason for this event being in existence. And so, I will watch the next one, because I think they will have learned, and I do still trust Sony. But, you know, as it stands, it was a very, very poor event, and a very bad first impression of Sony's new endeavor with State of Play. But that being said, I do think the format works, and I'm excited to see them improve. So I will be watching the next one. I'll probably stream the next one. If it's just as bad, probably won't ever touch it again. But I feel that the next one will be significantly better, because I think, for one, they've learned what they need to do. I think they've understood that the response to this has been bad, unless you're a fat shill that backstabs his friends over a Twitter joke. But other than that, everyone was disappointed. So there's that. But there we have it. I think that's it for this sort of a little discussion-y, rambly, talky video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you actually end up liking State of Play? Are you someone that disagrees with me and thinks, no, actually, it was very good? I think those people are few and far between, but I'd love to know your opinions without you saying, fuck you, cunt, in the comments. That'd be wonderful. And if you agree with me, let me know your thoughts as well. Just let me know your thoughts on this. Will you be watching the next one? And do you think that this works? Do you miss them being at E3? Do you want them to return to E3? Do you think E3 is dying? Let me know your thoughts on those things as well, because I would really appreciate that. And there's that. I've got another Jazz Lounge that'll be coming out soon. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Epic Games Store exclusivity, which I think is a nice little topic. Very topical to talk about these days. But I think that'll be one coming out probably sometime this week. And then I kind of want to have another proper video, but that might be weekend time, because Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered's coming out, and of course I want to milk that like Ubisoft does with Assassin's Creed. This is me milking udders. That's what that was. But of course I want to milk that like Ubisoft does with Assassin's Creed itself. So that'll be fun to talk about Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered. A lot of people have been hyped up to hear me talk shit, and you might be surprised. You might not. But you might be. We'll see how that turns out when I play the remaster. I mean, I'm going to be streaming it, so tune in for that. Anyways, that's for this video. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video. All that good stuff. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.